I live in Durham, North Carolina, but I come from Philadelphia originally. I'm a Contra dancer and a Contra dance caller and a Contra dance DJ. I also do a bunch of other kinds of swing dancing. There's so many amazing moments that happen in Contra dancing and dancing in general. It's impossible to pick a favorite, but one of the main ones that I think of all the time is I was at the Vintage Theater in Winston-Salem back when we were still dancing there. I don't know who I was dancing with. I don't know who the band was. I don't know who the caller was. But I just remembered this feeling washing over me of everything is right in the world. Everything is okay. I know there's bad stuff going on everywhere, but it's okay. Everything's okay. And that was one of my most amazing Contra dance moments that I've ever had. There's definitely a sense of community, but there's also this individual time with people. I always like to say that Contra dancing is for introverts. We only have to deal with like one person at a time, but we are still dancing with the whole room, but it's not super overwhelming. So there's this feeling of connection with the person that you're with at any given moment, but there's also this excitement of looking down the line and, oh, there's that person that you really like and they're coming this way, and oh, you get to dance with them. So there's joy, there's a lot of peace that comes with it. It's so simple to pick up, and it's so easy to get into, and then your brain just takes over and you don't have to think about it, and you can just enjoy the music. And there's a real peace, but there's also an excitement. I mean, some of these bands just build up like crazy, and oh my gosh, and you can, because you're in this crowd of people, but only dealing with one person because we're introverts here, you can just really let go and start yelling and feeling good. And I've seen people just drop down and scream because they're just having so much fun. I keep coming back to it because I know that I'm just gonna love it again. And then when I'm calling, it's the same kind of thing. You know, I get up there and it's amazing and wonderful, and I have no idea what's going on, but I'm helping people have a good time, and I can facilitate that, and I can take the times when I've not had a good time and from the stage help to mitigate any of that and help the community just enjoy live music. Oh my gosh, what is that even? So my very first Contra dance was in high school. My choir teacher at the time was getting married, and for their wedding, they were going to have a Contra dance, and they had the choir sing at their wedding, and then they invited us to the Contra dance. And I went, but it was not my thing. Like, there were adults there, and it was weird. It was just weird. I don't remember anything about it now that I've been dancing a long time, just beyond the fact that I thought that it was weird. And then when I was in college, some other students at Guilford College formed a social dance club, and they started putting on Contra dances. And I went to the first one, and I don't know why. Usually people have so-and-so dragged me, or so. I went alone. I don't know why I went, but I loved it. It was the greatest. It wasn't that hard, and all these people were having the best time, and they all smiled at me, and there was all this eye contact, and I was like, they all love me. This is the best. I'm gonna do this all the time. And so I did. I just got totally hooked. And I actually talk about that in my beginner lesson now. I say people are gonna be making eye contact with you and smiling, and you know, it might be a little uncomfortable, but you're gonna think everybody's kind of in love with you. And we are, but we're also in love with everybody else in this room. So, you know, there's an extent to which it's personal and it's not. So it helps keep you from getting dizzy. It's a nice way to engage. You're welcome to do it, and so on. But it was that first dance in college that I just thought, where has this been the whole time? I love it. And there's been this conversation and this concern over, is recorded music going to take over live musicians? And no, is my answer. I firmly believe that there's always going to be that need and that desire to engage with people on stage in the same way that you're never going to have somebody recording calls. So the future of contra dancing is always a little bit in question, because there's always this worry of, we're not getting enough young people, and if we don't get enough young people, then they're not gonna push the dance forward, and then it's all gonna die and it's never gonna happen again. And I don't really see that happening. If you're gonna be bringing new people into your community, they're gonna change it. And you just kind of have to expect that if you want young people to come in, you can't get upset when they try to make it their own. And Youth Dance Weekend up in Vermont has been doing a lot of really good work with their community, and bringing people from all over the U.S. It's called Youth Dance Weekend, but anybody can go. And they foster these conversations about what their community's like, what they do for their community, how they want to change their community, what they want to see in the future. So while we always have these worries about young people coming in, it's there.
I go by the name Stan Fowler. I used to be known as Dance Ranger for years at Glen Echo Park, because I'm a retired park ranger. And I got drafted into the Park Service because I was working on a PhD in physical inorganic chemistry and dancing with a dance company at Glen Echo Park. And one summer a ranger didn't show up, and they needed somebody, because I was their technical director too, they needed somebody to do sound for a concert series. And I got involved. In '76 I was dancing in the ballroom with a modern dance company, and by '78 I was introduced to my first vernacular dance, both contra dance, tea dance, swing dance, every kind of dance that sort of happened at Glen Echo. So dance is a very powerful, I would say it's a very powerful community that I've learned about over the years at Glen Echo. What I did that was really good was, anytime a person takes a job, at least in my case, is whatever it is, you should do it to the best of your ability. And mine happened to be in a park that was old buildings and art, and the public really liked dancing, and I sort of liked it. And so I said, what can I do to make these dancing things better? How do we get community created? What's the difference between community dance and a dance community? I think I put something on a bio recently for some place I'm working, and I said, I spent 34 years trying to make the first time visitor to the Spanish ballroom have a good time in the dance hall. That was done by various ways of making all the groups have introductory classes so a visitor coming in could enjoy the event. Not necessarily the whole thing, but feel like they could come back again and pick it up, instead of just going, I can't do this, look how good everybody is. But for somehow, when they get on the dance floor, they feel like they got to look like somebody dancing with the stars, or everybody's going to make fun of them. And mine was trying to make it like nobody's looking at you, you're having fun with your partner, it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. And that was my approach. If I'm proud of anything of what I did in my other life, it was creating a program that sustained itself now for, since 1978. So, and the ballroom is one of the premier places, as I understand, to dance all these kind of dances. I've been to over 6,000 dances. The Park Service has this saying that a highlight of many visitors' experience to a national park is first-person contact with a ranger. Like, I'm in Yellowstone, and look, there's a ranger, and he's giving a tour, and I actually got to talk to him. Well, when I read that, and then I started looking back on it, just doing some math, because I have something that people call statistics, which means I like to get a lot of data to make my points work, okay? So I figured I probably had 37,000 visitors in my arm like this. No other ranger goes up and gets to hug a visitor as part of their tour thing, and probably touched another 100,000 people going up and down the line. So I'm not sure what that means, but it is interesting number to play with. But that's how I got to understand the needs of the visitors, find out what they liked about the park. I'm thinking about a lot of stuff, and I've worked at this camp I really love, Youth Dance Weekend. The average age is 26. It's been going on for 9 years. People from all over the country come in and they're very serious about their dance and their community. And they get together in little groups and talk about stuff. And then they report to the whole, and then they go back and dance. I mean, I really love it. They bring me in as an old guy, was their lifeguard the first year, and then I segued into keeping the dance floor and the airs clean. So I'm always the oldest guy. 97% of the people are under 30. I mean, every year I get older and they get younger. So what I've noticed, 3 years ago, it tweaked my mind. A person raised their hand and said, what's it going to be like, they're having their meeting, what's it going to be like to dance when I'm 40? And I'm thinking, okay. I'm looking around to see if anybody's going to answer that question. I told you what the average age was, right? So I go, hey, I might be able to help you, but I'm as far from 40 as you are, but I'm in the other direction. So if you want to know, I've been dancing about 40 some years, and if you go back to high school or junior high, that kind of stuff too. I mean, there's a whole history of dance I won't go into and why it's important in culture and community and stuff. So I say, watch me dance. And the floor is in a music hall. It's not a dance hall, so it has slopes in it. I've done 3D drawings of it just to show how dancers drift around the floor when they're dancing on the edge, and they go to this corner or that corner. And I'm kind of silly in what I like to do. I like to understand how stuff works. And I love this community because they're very sensitive to the issues going on in the LBGT, people being accepted. 80% of communication is through body language, most people, and most of that's through the eyes. So dancing with somebody, you get a lot of sense of where they are in space and time. And I love playing in space and time on the dance floor. And I've written a bunch of papers. Like one of the more exciting ones I loved years ago was in a graduate school class. What happens on the last note of the music? What do people do? You're given permission with the music to be, your intimate and personal space changes a whole lot with the music. And as soon as the music ends, it's like you're a little kid down the rec room with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, and you're trying to get close, and your mom turns the light on and you go, we weren't doing nothing. So if you watch dancers on the floor, especially new ones, they get there and the music ends, they automatically create the acceptable personal space that's allowed to be having when you're in the real world. And depending on, I can watch and see when people are dancing how well they know each other, or how comfortable they feel in the dance style. And then you also watch them if they're going to, I was learning all these terms in Laban notation. If you're watching them and they're going to stay with their partner, they keep their shoulders locked together and they turn their heads sort of side to side like, don't come into our space. If they're going to leave, they turn their shoulder in the way they're going, but they keep their eyes locked. Say, this was nice, thank you, but I've really got to get over to this other partner because they've double booked or something like that. So all these little signs, some are extreme and some are very subtle, and after a while, I just sit, enjoy. I don't have to dance every dance. I just love watching how the people interact and which ones. Well, there's all sorts of stories. And then there's another point in dance. If you're Contra Dancing, when you go the progression and you're on the last B note, there's a space between the A before it starts. And what happens there is music can't happen. Nothing can happen without space. The silent spots are just as important as the notes. If you don't have the silent bits, nothing happens. So in every progression that you watch, the person who is moving, for the most part, from the B to the A to go into the next one, will do something like pick their nose or do their hair or, tuck something. And all I have to do is do the same move without even looking at them. They're aware that all of a sudden somebody has seen them in a moment where they thought they were by themselves. And then I pretend like it doesn't happen, and they know that at least in my impression, they know that, oh my gosh, he saw me in a moment, but I respect it and I just go on my way and let the dance go. But if you spend time looking at those little nanoseconds or moments in between, the people get into this thing, and this is their whole series. There's a whole series of stuff that happens as you go down the line, like you have conversations with your partner and 8-bit bites, 8-note bites. And then you might just catch up with somebody else as you're going in the swing, and so you get whole stories of what happened in the week, and you're juggling all these plates of keeping what stories were happening with who, and how's your partner doing, and how to do with the others. And what's nice about music and dance is, it's not like singing. Everybody doesn't have to hear you if you're off key, but if you're dancing, they don't have to watch what you're doing, but you have to be back in the right spot on the music to make sure that the shared experience is done right. But what you and your partner want to do, if you want to do the dip, that's fine. There's people who hate people doing dips, and I go to them who are my age and go, you never remember when we started? A do-si-do didn't have a twirl in it. And there were people going, this isn't how you do a do-si-do, there's no twirls allowed. So there's this evolution, at least in the dances I've been of, and the evolution happens in different parts of the countries. I will be dancing in one area and go, oh, we haven't done this move for a while, or I'll be in another one and they're way ahead of what's made it to our hall, and then I will watch it progress and get into our dance community, which is a really, it's a large one. There's 3 ways you can flirt. I mean, dancing is one of the flirt things, but one is you're talking to somebody, the guy who was teaching says, and you're in a party and your elbow or your foot or something is touching somebody else. And then across the room, you just start taking movements that the other person is doing, whatever it is they do, and you do the same thing. That's the synchronicity, which is the power of dance. And I've done that at the ballroom and just said, okay, I'm going to do this. And then the person move and I do the other one, and you go, oh, and they move again. And having been involved in, I guess I saw my first one in 78, however many years ago that was, 35, 40. It's evolved in its own way. Well, here's how I think futures of dance work, because I've often talked about the life and death of a dance cycle. Look at Crinoline Square dance, look at Scottish dance, the dances where you got to do the same thing exactly right, you got to take the lessons. I call it, what is it? There's Western Club Square dancing, which is you got all the rules you got to do. I sense some contra dancers going into what I call Eastern Club contra dancing, where you got to do exact rules, you balance and swing this way. I look at the dance as an evolution, and if it evolves too far, it becomes another dance form. But the people on the dance and the ones who are dancing it decide how they want to enjoy it. And the different age groups enjoy it in different ways, but there's a thread that runs through it that I've seen that is very powerful. But if you get too far away from the form, it's another dance form. So as long as people are enjoying it, and the contra dance is a form that's safe for a lot of people. It's like a weaving pattern. You have the wharf and the waff, and they know where they are, but some people can get in there and then weave their own patterns in it. I'm on a group, we started a square dance in DC about 5 years ago. It's in a church, concrete floor, the acoustics are awful, we charge $5 to get in. When it started, it was mostly millenniums coming in from the neighborhood, and I watched it evolve, and what's so powerful about it is their social communication is this. I mean, that's just it. They get into the square dance, they're touching each other. It's a need they don't know they have, but humanity needs. It's just like humanity, when I've taken kids out in the woods from the inner city and they're in nature and they're going, I don't like this, and all of a sudden they just open up and it's like in Richard Louvert's book, Last Child in the Woods. The energy of the nature, the energy of the dance, the energy of the touch. You can go back and see, remember the dance masters in the 1800s where people have to learn and dance and all of this kind of stuff? There's a paper I read about how to pick up people in a bar. It was one of those Golden Fleece Awards. The same movements, and I'm gonna go through it all in here, that person evolved to end up walking out of the hall with somebody. It was the same movements that happened on the dance floor. Eye contact, voice contact, touch contact, synchronicity. The thing about the dance is, it's in a controlled environment, and you go, I had a good time, I want to dance with this person again, or oh, all right, I do this for the community, I did my thing but I'm going to dance with somebody else, and the community of dance with somebody you've never danced with, somebody you've always wanted to dance with, and the person you brung first and last dance. There's all these little social rules, and people go, this dance is it's too snotty. Well, you come to a dance and you have 50 friends there, there's 10 dances, and everybody wants to dance in, and then somebody else is on the community going, how do I get in here? I can't push my way in. But wow, this hat, it makes me do the talking. It's a wisdom cap now. You know, dance is fun, and fun's a 3-letter word, and if you take you out of the center of it, it doesn't exist. So you have to be there for fun to happen, because if it's not, it's just Fn, and we know that's a function, and that gets into calculus, and f of y equals x squared to the 3. So just have fun, shut up and dance.
My name's Peggy Leiby. I grew up in Philadelphia, have spent most of my life there, a little bit of time in New Mexico. I used to play violin as a little kid and danced like crazy in the 60s doing Motown music. Then I got into work. I was in work like this workhorse. Work, work, work. It got up to be about 60 or 70 hours a week at times. Co-founding a publishing company with a couple of friends, computer magazines and books. But you know what? I always wanted to dance. I just didn't know that there was such a big folk scene out there. Around 1991, I looked in the Philadelphia Inquirer, things to do. I found dancing. International folk dancing, I didn't know what it was. Contra dancing, English country? Is that Western, like country Western with an accent? I didn't know. So I went to an international folk dance, and before long I was dancing a whole heck of a lot, and I discovered Contra dancing in 1993, and I was hooked. The best feeling I get while I'm Contra dancing is moving to the music and looking at people I'm with a partner, and then there's another couple coming toward us, and I get to I keep dancing with different people, but then I also still sync with the person who asked me to dance or who I might have asked to dance. So it's just this bonding of a community. My first Contra dance was in 1993, so I think that makes it about 14 years. And I remember after going a couple of weeks, it took me 3 times of going to feel comfortable. When I first started dancing, I was concentrating a lot on what I was hearing from the caller. I didn't even realize there were live musicians up on stage playing for us. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't really kind of bond with them for a month or so when there was a pickup band and I saw some friends up on the stage. Before that, I was concentrating. The sense of community when you're Contra dancing, that's what does it for me. It's people all there out to have a good time, get some exercise, being in a hall with each other, and all this twirling and do-si-doing and basically just taking steps. It just feels good. Because there's another thing I like about the whole dancing thing, and that's the range of ages. Because when I started international folk dancing, there were people in their 70s, and I couldn't believe people could move like that, because I was in my 40s. I think Contra dance will be around for a long time, because there are people of all ages doing it. There were people of all ages when I was doing it. I started in my 40s, and what's been really just great in the past 5 or 6 years is that the younger generation has joined in with we who were in our 40s, 50s, and 60s. And there's lots of energy, and I see younger people taking leadership roles, and I think it's got a great future.
My name is Bob Kettig. I'm retired for 9 years now. I am the owner of the Almost Heaven Dance Weekend LLC that runs the camp. And this is our 30th year. My best Contra dancing moment, it's more than one, but it's when the music just gets so good. I like fast, I like a lot of percussion, I like it when the dancers are going crazy. And, you know, just the really good bands that can do that, they know the tricks to get us all excited. The feelings for me are mostly about the music. I started in 1999, so this is 18 years. Actually, first time was in 1997. I had heard about it. I was in a folk music group. People were talking about it. I picked up a little hint that maybe it was easy enough I could do, but I didn't act on that right away. Then I went to a party and met a couple of guys who were talking about it, and I really grilled them and decided to go to Glen Echo Park I happened to go there on the night when Wild Asparagus was there. There was like over 400 people. I thought that was normal because that was my first time. And I went, but I didn't go with somebody who could really teach me the finer points. And I was struggling, and every week it was a decision whether to go back. I went 6 weeks in a row, and then I decided to skip a week. That turned into 2 years. You know how that is. 2 years went by, and I had some front row seats to a concert at the Barnes of Wolf Trap. I didn't have anyone to go with, and so I decided to go back to Glen Echo and see if I could find somebody who'd go to the concert with me. So I actually, that night, met Cindy Rury, who is the president of the Almost Heaven Dance Weekend now. She had been doing it since 1988. She had posted some pictures of the camp, showing people around campfires, people throwing frisbees, stuff that I knew I liked. I wasn't sure about contra dancing yet. I liked the music. I always liked the music. And the pictures made me more curious about it. So I started doing it for the camping, you know, the childlike, you know, campfire frisbee stuff. And she showed me I needed to get different shoes. She gave me some pointers that nobody else had in the other 6 times I had been there. Nobody had bothered to tell me I was grabbing hands too tightly and all those things. And so then, you know, with that little bit of coaching, it became much better, and I realized, you know, I could do it. And I'm not, you know, I don't do other fancy, you know, I don't do whatever foxtrot and things. You know, I don't do ballroom. And I don't like swing dancing because, and even too much waltzing, because you have to decide what you're going to do at every moment. We're going to do this, we're going to do this. Contra dancing, they tell you what you're going to do. And you don't have to pick it. You just try to remember it and get better at it each time through. And the repetition is very good for me. I like repetition. So that's when I decided it was for me. Well, I didn't have a community. I don't have a church. I'm an atheist. So I knew all my life that I didn't have that community that other people have, but I didn't want to pretend to be something I wasn't in order to get it. And so I just thought my life was going to be without a community. I mean, at work I was an engineer, and that was my community. I knew a lot of engineers. We did things together, we did sports and all that, but you know, that was limited. What I like about Contra is it's very accepting, very, you know, tolerant, very, I don't really like the word liberal, but I guess that's the word that people would understand. Very democratic, and hardly anybody smokes. You can wear whatever you want to wear. You know, people who are new to it say, well, what should I wear? And I say, just be comfortable. Nobody cares. You know. So I just like that freedom of non-judgmental type atmosphere, accepting of who you are, the way you are.
Miriam Isaacs, and Almost Heaven, it's been more than almost of heaven for many, many years, and I'm so grateful to Cindy and Bob and all the people that work so hard. I think when you lose yourself in space and time, you know, when the music just captures you and everything becomes this wonderful blur, and you're sort of connected to a whole lot of people and whirling around. Those are wonderful moments. I feel as if I'm part of a community and I'm moving to music, and sometimes I'm a little worried because I'm afraid I'm going to lose where I am. and sort of bollocks up other people, and I don't like to do that. But most of the time I just enjoy it. I've been going to various versions of Almost Heaven for a very long time, since the 1990s for sure. It used to be at a place called Buffalo Gap. I mean, it's Almost Heaven because of West Virginia. So it used to be in West Virginia, and there were a few camps back there, but especially Buffalo Gap, and there was a YMCA camp that we used. And they're all wonderful spaces because I live in DC, so I need to get out of the city often, you know, and into nature and away from the hubbub. And this place is perfect for that. Like Buffalo Gap, it has a kind of hollow feel to it. So you're nestled in, and there are green lawns and bodies of water and places where there's enough around that you don't really ever feel like you want to leave, because everything is within this little sort of nest of greenery and like-minded people. My first contra dances were in urban settings, but I liked having live music. Before I did contra dancing, I did a lot of international folk dancing. That was mostly done to recorded music. And the steps were getting more and more complicated, and it was becoming kind of competitive, who can do the fastest Bulgarian dances. And I got a little tired of that. I like this sort of meditative, hypnotic aspect of dancing, and I like having live music. So contra dancing offered both of those. So I kind of eased off the international folk dancing and switched to contra dancing. We're getting older, this cohort. I see a lot of knee braces and hobbling going on. So we're, I think, a product of a certain folk generation for the most part. There are a few younger people coming to it, but it's not a young person's thing. And I kind of worry about what the young person's things are. It may be fading because of a sort of aging cohort. There are younger musicians and callers, and at Glen Echo there are a bunch of younger people. And I think nobody could have predicted it would happen when it did happen. So you never quite know what's going to catch hold where. So I hope that something like contra, I'm not wedded to contra dance per se as a thing, you know, it sort of has its roots in Appalachian music and Irish music, and I love many kinds of music, so I think any kind of moving to music in community. I think the nice thing about the contra dancing is that you dance with a great many people. And it's pretty kind of freewheeling, you know. It's not like you have one partner like in ballroom dancing, but you can have many different partners, and even if you have a bad partner in one dance, you're dancing with so many people that it really doesn't matter. And that's kind of neat, you know, the touching, the twirling around, and also the contact with the women, and, you know, sort of getting familiar with people in that way. And I think it's ingrained in us. I was an anthro major as an undergraduate, and humanity has danced together since the dawn of civilization. And I have a feeling that's not going away, you know. Technology is trying to drive it out, I think, you know, from us. And I think we better, you know, sort of pay attention to what that means. Because I know a lot of people get really isolated. And in fact, both international folk dancing and contra dancing sometimes draws a lot of nerdy people. By nerdy, I mean people who don't have necessarily good social skills, don't feel they look handsome or beautiful, may feel too old or too whatever it is. Contra dancing, it does not matter. In international folk dancing, it does not matter. You know, and people are generous and kind and accepting. So I really like that a lot, you know, that men can wear skirts fine, you know, that you can just move the way you feel like. And just dancing in the swimming pool yesterday was heaps of fun. It was great. People are just too isolated. They don't touch each other, especially a lot of older people. They just never get touch. And I think a lot of people now view that as threatening. Somehow being touched is threatening. And that's so sad, you know. So yeah, I hope that contra dancing or just dancing to live music carries on. I like, all the bands at this weekend are wonderful because there's such a nice mix too of ages and backgrounds and styles.
Hi, I'm Joe Pescatore. Although when I hit the dance floor, you'll see my name badge says fun. My other name, though, if I'm at a folk festival, is Butterfly Joe. And I'll tell you the story of the butterfly. It started with a cat I had at one time. He was outside when he wasn't supposed to be one time, came back to the porch, opened his mouth, and the butterfly flew out. I found out that butterfly also stands for peace and justice, as well as change, new things. And I thought, peace and justice is some kind of a message I'd like to spread to everybody all the time. We, at our local dance, have people of all ages. And there was this one night, a 4-year-old girl ran up to me and asked me to dance with her. And I just felt like, wow, that's fantastic. And I said, yes. And we had a great dance. It was just, it's so nice to know that people are comfortable with you. Wow. I get a physical charge, especially with the music. I'm also a musician, so I understand the band feeds off the excitement of the dancers, and the dancers feed off the excitement of the band, and it just becomes a fantastic experience. It's not an everyday normal type of thing. It's beyond. It's always one of those things that you would like to shoot for, where your body is shooting out the chemicals, the endorphins and everything that, it's a happy moment. Physically, mentally, and of course socially it's really great because you meet all kinds of people. For a while, I was dancing in nightclubs. Yes, a lot of smoking, a lot of alcohol, and it got to be the point that it wasn't any fun. And I was at the Philadelphia Folk Festival talking to one of my friends, and he suggested that I try contra dancing. I went to a local contra dance on a Saturday night, terribly overdressed because I didn't know what to expect, very, very warm, and I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing. So I was getting gentle nudges to go to the right direction, and I've got a lot of encouragement from everybody on the dance floor. And I was so lucky that on the table near the door, there was a flyer for a dance weekend the following weekend. And I went. So 20 hours of dancing, my second weekend of dancing. I could never stop contra dancing after that. I have danced in Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Vermont, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, and Indiana. The wonderful thing about contra dance community is that I can go to any of these places and I know that I will have a friend to stay with just because I'm one of their community. This weekend, I think we've got some people from Michigan. I know we have people from North Carolina. So they had, there's even one from Chattanooga, Tennessee. So we had people who drove 12 hours to join us this weekend. Because it's like seeing your best friends wherever you go, or going home for a family reunion. Well, this is the family that you get to pick, not the one that you're stuck with, okay?
My name is Jamie, and I mostly am doing contra dance things. I really don't do many things other than dance and play contra dances. I love when the dancers are going wild on the floor and you know that it's some weird, bizarre little thing that was done in the music that got them hooked and got them to listen enough, give them the energy to power through at 12 at night. It's a lovely feeling. There's never a specific moment, I guess. When dancing, I am often super happy. I feel like many dancers aren't always paying attention to the music. I am often in a crazy state of joy. I absolutely love dancing, and contra dancing is particularly joyful out of like swing dance and blues and other things I do. I'm often listening to the music, and so cool little I don't know, cool chords that the musicians play, I notice and I get excited about, and it's just way too fun. I have been at contra dances my whole life because my family runs a contra dance, and so I've been running around playing at contra dances forever, and only got into dancing like 5 years ago. It was the sort of grown-up thing to do, and I just sat in the background and listened to the music and watched the dancers. When I started dancing, I had already been playing dances. I'd already been drumming and playing guitar at dances for a while, and so it really felt like it zeroed in on contra dancing being my thing, since I did the full circle, since I did all of it. I love the community aspect of contra dancing. I, again, do like a little bit of swing dancing and stuff, and haven't quite gotten into that community as much. And I feel like it's there a little bit, but within contra dancing, it's so evident, it's so friendly and joyful, especially in my community in Maine. It is wonderfully friendly and welcoming. I got to play with my family a lot at our contra dance, and would get called over from whatever playing on a scooter type thing I was doing at the time to come drum on one song or something. And slowly throughout the years, I came more and more just to play. So it was a very slow transition to just being at contra dances to playing for contra dances. But when I was about 10 or 11, I started actually getting hired to play drums at dances, and so there was never really a moment, but there was definitely a slow switch into being a musician for contra dances. I've seen contra dance get bigger and smaller throughout the past couple of years I've been dancing, and recently a vast amount of young people have been coming into contra dances in Maine, like 10-year-olds and things like that, which is surprising and amazing and awesome to have a new generation of contra dancers. I would really love contra dance to continue to flourish and progress.